done that yet. There we go. Welcome everyone to today's webinar. This is a science-focused webinar. I have with me 3 of our fantastic students that are going to assist us with this topic today. So I'm really excited to have them all on board. My name is, like I said, Jimmy Hamerbach. I'm the Regional Operations Manager for Middle East and South Asia for the University of Guelph. Originally from Sweden, lived in the US for many years, and also in Spain, also in Argentina, and also in New York. We can keep going, but I'll stop there. Currently in Sweden though, so that's the time zone I'm in. We're gonna get started with an introduction of our panelist. And quick correction, I guess. We have 2 current students and 1 alumni, because that's more accurate if we say it that way. But I'm going to get started, and I'll start with our eminent alumni that we have with us, alumnus. Norman, you can start introducing yourself and your background, and we'll take it from there.
Hey folks, so as Jimmy said, my name is Norman. I am a recent graduate from the Biomedical Toxicology program. I just wrapped up earlier this year in April of 2020. And I'm originally from Mauritius and currently in Canada. And I will pass it on to Chelsea to introduce herself.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Chelsea. I am a 4th year student in biological and pharmaceutical chemistry. I moved to Guelph from Dubai a couple years ago. So yeah, I currently live in Guelph right now, and I'm on my co-op work term. So I'm actually at work right now, but yeah.
Perfect. And Mohammed.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Mohammed. I'm a 4th year student studying biomedical sciences at the University of Guelph. I'm originally from Alexandria, Egypt. However, I've spent most of my life studying in Saudi Arabia. I moved to Canada in grade 9, so roughly 2013, and applied to the University of Guelph.
Excellent. Perfect. So before we get started and get into the science piece of everything, I'm actually going to share a little bit about the University of Guelph, just so that you are all a little bit more familiar with it. So I'm going to share my screen and move into the presentation. Hopefully my computer will collaborate with me. There we go. We'll start with the city of Guelph, and I think this is an important introduction to the students or anyone who's watching this webinar. So you have a good understanding about the environment that you are going to spend the next 4 or 5 years in if you decide to come to the University of Guelph. The city is located about 1 hour and 15 minutes outside of Toronto, so downtown Toronto. From the airport, from Pearson International Airport, outside of Toronto, it's about a 45-50 minute drive. That will give you an idea of where we are. 135,000 people roughly lives in the city. And one of the pieces that you definitely will take advantage of is our close-knit community that we live in. Community at Guelph is everything, both on campus and off campus. And this is something that our students will talk more about later on in this webinar as well. Rated one of the 10 best places to live in Canada for new Canadians. I had that experience myself. I moved from the US, from Hawaii to be exact, after 12 years living there to Guelph, which was quite a transition for me at the time. But I will say, because of the community, it was actually a very seamless transition. You can easily connect with people and get integrated as a student, but also as a new immigrant coming to the city. Unemployment rate among the lowest in Canada. You are going to find plenty of opportunities, but one of the key pieces is actually something that may not give you too much money, and that's volunteering. Volunteering in Guelph and in this community is one of the best things, and it's actually a Guelph thing. Our students always say that. Outdoor activities, going to be plenty of them that you can do. Our students can cover that a little bit more later on. I'll move into the overview so you can get an idea of what the city looks like from above. So here at the bottom, you will see the University of Guelph. And you have something called the Arboretum as well, a large green area where students are part of it doing some research within their programs, but also just enjoying the outdoor activities that they can do. It's absolutely beautiful. And down here, you have the city of Guelph with all the different pieces that are worth watching. And I can tell you from my own experience, and also students can fill in on this, that Guelph is a foodie city. Okay, there's lots of great food in Guelph. That kind of goes hand in hand with the institution as well. We have a lot of strong majors within the food area. We're going to cover that later on as well. But lots of things to explore for sure. Couple of pieces to keep in mind when it comes to the University of Guelph. We have about 30,000 students, 27,000 undergraduate students. Roughly, it says 1,600 international students. I think we're actually reaching towards 1,700. So the number is fairly good. We do have, we are the third largest co-op program in Ontario. Just to mention something, we have 3,500 students enrolled in the co-op program as we speak. One of the most important numbers maybe to keep in mind is that 91.9% of the students do get employment within 6 months after graduation, which is an excellent number, of course. So you can almost be guaranteed that you will have a great outcome after the degree. There are a couple of things to keep in mind throughout the process, though, and we will talk about those as well to make sure that we really guide you in a proper way. I don't cover all those. But we'll go to the university transition. This is where I'm going to start talking to the students as well within this area. So with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to go to, well, I'm going to include a couple of students in the first question. And the first question is kind of, why did you decide to come to Canada? Why did you decide to study abroad? Why the University of Guelph? Anyone can really jump in on this one. Maybe Chelsea, do you want to start on that one?
So when I was applying for university back in 2017, I had a couple options. I really wanted to go to the US for a while. Canada wasn't even a country I was considering for the longest time. But then after going through the whole application process for the US, I realized that one, university was super expensive. And I think that's where Guelph definitely has an upper hand. I think it's definitely a lot more affordable as a foreign degree in comparison to the US for sure. And even in comparison to other Canadian universities for international students. So that was definitely something that helped push me towards Guelph. And on top of that, Guelph was pretty generous with their entrance scholarships. So my first year entrance scholarship was significantly higher than any of the other universities in Ontario that I had applied to. So just for context, I'd applied to Waterloo, Guelph, and York, and I'd got into all of them. And I chose Guelph in the end. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Who else? Norman, you want to share as well?
Kind of a bit of a similar story to Chelsea. I always knew I wanted to go study abroad. So I actually applied to the States as well, did all the SATs, got accepted to all my universities in the States. And to be honest, out of all my universities in Canada, Guelph was actually a bit lower ranked on my list when I was applying to universities. However, when it came to the time where I had like all my offers and I was considering which university I wanted to go, I realized that for a lot of other universities, I was finding reasons as to why I should go versus for some reason Guelph. I was finding reasons why I shouldn't, and I realized that there were more reasons why I should go to Guelph. It offered just more than like the school and the studies. It offered more of a holistic approach to everything. Like it encouraged its students to really get involved outside of the classroom and was selling like a university experience versus trying to get me to come for a program. And at the end of the day, when you do come to Guelph, I think personally I've learned a lot in my program, but I've also learned a lot based on all the other opportunities that Guelph had to offer, which is why I'm really glad I ended up going with Guelph.
Awesome. Mohammed, you can share your experience too. Then we covered all three of you.
Sure. My experience is a little bit different because I didn't really directly come here straight from another country. I actually attended high school here. However, I personally chose Guelph and specifically biomedical sciences because I've had a lifelong interest in pursuing a career in the healthcare industry. And so when I was looking at science programs across all the other universities, I just specifically fell in love with the Guelph program. It is important to obviously note that you don't need to attend a science program in order to apply to medicine. However, it just aligns with a lot of the prerequisites and my future goals in terms of applying to medical school. As well as when I attended the campus over the summer, I just fell in love with it, the scenery, the architecture, and yeah, that's where I went.
Yeah, that's what we hear from a lot of students. The moment they set their foot on campus, then it's like, yeah, this is definitely the place for me. I hear that quite often. Awesome. We're going to jump over to Chelsea again. So I'm going to have you describe your first year at the university. How was the transition? Because like you said, you're from Dubai, you moved to Guelph, fairly different city. So
Yeah.
how was that experience for you?
For sure. So obviously living in Dubai, I was used to living in the big city and obviously a lot hotter temperatures. So I think that was the one thing that I was worried about that would be difficult for me to transition because as we know, Canada is cold. It is cold, but I have found in my 3.5 something years of living here that although it is cold, it's definitely manageable. And I think that's something that people from hotter countries won't be able to appreciate as much because when it's hot, there's not much you can do. But when it's cold, like you just bundle up, wear like the right clothing, and you're pretty much going to be okay for the most part. I think the other thing that I was worried about prior to coming to Guelph was Guelph is a smaller town, and I was like, am I going to have enough things to do? Is it going to be boring? Um, but to be honest, I was like pleasantly surprised when I moved to Guelph because although it is a small town, like you said earlier, there is that very like community feel to Guelph. You definitely feel like you're part of like a tighter knit community and everyone is just like really kind and helpful and wants to help you like feel comfortable for sure. And there's lots of activities planned around Guelph, and they have like a rich art culture, I would say, in Guelph for sure. So yeah.
Awesome. Mention a couple of things like the cultural differences from Dubai coming to Guelph. Anything you want to highlight there?
I would say for sure, because of the community feel in Guelph, people are a lot more nice, as weird as that sounds. Like they're a lot more helpful. Like I remember my first week on campus, everywhere you go, people will be holding doors for you. It's very polite. People are really, really, really nice. I know that's a stereotype that Canadians are nice, but I've personally found that to be true. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's one major thing that I've noticed for sure.
Did you have any challenges though?
Um, I wouldn't say challenges. I think it just got I think I use different words. I've used different words because I went to a British school in Dubai, and I think when I came here, a lot of people would be like, "What are you saying?" Because I would say lift instead of elevator. But
Mhm.
just like small things like that. I wouldn't say it was a struggle. Obviously, when you move, you're gonna deal with missing home. I definitely was homesick for the first like couple months that I moved. And I didn't have any family in Canada as well to lean on. I think something that was super helpful in with that is that I made a lot of friends in my first couple of weeks of university. Friends that I still keep in touch with to this day now in my fourth year. But I think that was definitely a big help, just making friends because your friends essentially become your family in university.
Right,
Mhm.
right. So moving in to your major, biological and pharmaceutical chemistry,
Mhm.
not a whole lot of people necessarily know much about the major. Can you explain a little bit what it is about, some courses you want to
For sure.
highlight? Or
For sure. So, biological and pharmaceutical chemistry, I think essentially combines um, a majority of the chemistry courses. So you'd be doing most of the chemistry courses, and there's also biology courses that you would cover in your first and second year that are, I'd say, pretty general. So I'm pretty sure with Norman and Mohammed as well, we probably had a lot of courses in common, especially in our first and second years. Part of like the general science program where you do bio, chem, and physics, and also some math. But then as you get into your upper years, so in third and fourth years, you have more targeted courses towards pharmaceutical sciences. So for example, next semester, I have my exchange semester at York University that is in collaboration with the University of Guelph. So I'll be doing primarily pharmaceutical-based courses, and they are gonna be in person for next semester. I'll be having all my labs in person still, despite the pandemic. And yeah, so those are definitely a lot more pharmaceutical tailored courses. So we do things like formulation and dosage and things like that. So I think that's something that's very unique to my program, is that opportunity to get into that very, that subsection of pharmaceuticals. And I don't think that's something that is in any other program at Guelph, for sure.
Okay, awesome. And I know that you're also in the co-op program, of course. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that experience, kind of the process. I can just mention before you go into it that when you're applying to co-op at the University of Guelph, you have to do that when you submit your application from the get-go, just as a side note. But I'll share the screen here and you can just guide us through it.
Yeah, for sure. Right, so this was basically my sequence of school and co-op. So as you can see here, in year one, you have that summer off, so you don't have co-op in the first year, but you start co-op in the winter semester of year two. So essentially what you need to be doing as you're preparing for your co-op semester is you are going to be able to access a portal called Recruit Guelph, or now Experience Guelph, wherein the companies that the University of Guelph has been networking with, they put up job postings and the students can apply through that portal. So usually for me, in my personal experience, I've probably applied to in each co-op cycle, probably 5 or 6 jobs each time. And usually from those 5 or 6 jobs, you'll get like 2 or 3 interviews. And the interviews pre-COVID would be done in person at the co-op office. But for my last co-op application cycle, it was all done online. And after the interviews, you usually get offers posted a week after, and then it's up to you to accept it or decline it. And then, yeah, you start the next semester. And it's for 4 months. My co-op terms have been for 4 months, but you can get the option to make it an 8-month co-op if that's something that you'd like to do, and if that's something your employer would like to extend with you. So yeah, overall, I think my experience with co-op, I would highly recommend it to anyone that's applying to the University of Guelph. I think it's such a standout thing to have at the end of your degree, have all this work experience acquired. And like I've had pretty varied co-ops so far, which I think is good because I came into my degree not fully knowing what I wanted to do in the future with it. And I think the fact that I'm in co-op helps me narrow down what do I like and what I don't like. So far I've done co-ops in quality assurance, I've done research and development, and right now I coordinate science labs. So it's kind of like a teaching role-ish, and it was interesting. I think having that diversity of job experiences helps you figure out and narrow down what you'd like to do in the future.
Right, awesome. Because I know a lot of students are asking, but how do I actually land a job? I never applied for any jobs in my entire life. Co-op 1100, of course, is the course that students are taking. What are you going through in that course?
For sure. So I came from a kind of similar background. I'd never had a part-time job even prior to my co-op. So I was really lost. I didn't know how to make a cover letter, come up with my resume, things like that. And so that's where the co-op office is super helpful with. So my advisor, Mr. Kramer, he's super nice. Everyone get in touch with him. But so Mr. Kramer helps me with my resume. He helps me with my cover letters. I can email them to him anytime and he will come back to me with like an edited version. Sometimes, so before COVID, but now he does them online. You can still have like organize a meeting with him where he will walk through each part of your resume if he thinks there's things that you should add for a certain job. So there's definitely support with that. You're not going into this blind. There's lots of people at the co-op office that want to help you and want to help you get a job. And I'd say so far, the employment rates with co-op are pretty high. I'd say probably over 80 to 90%.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. If there are any questions for Chelsea specifically, she's going to head out in a little bit. So if you have any specific questions for her and her pharmaceutical chemistry major, please post them as soon as possible. As we mentioned before, the webinar is covering that major for sure, but biomedical science as well as biomedical toxicology. So those are the students that we have with us today. Perfect. Thank you so much. I will just add the last part. What makes the University of Guelph unique for you?
For me, I think, like Norman said earlier, it's the university experience. It's not just, okay, I'm in university to do my program, do school, and be just studying all day. I think University of Guelph has a good balance, a good mix of like work, like study and your personal life. So you're able to, I feel like it's a good balance. And so you're not just stressed out all the time. I think that's an important thing to consider as well. If you're an international student who's moving to a country halfway across the world, you want to know that, okay, I'm not going to be stressed out all the time. I'm not just going to be focused on studying all the time. You need to have some sort of personal life. And I think the University of Guelph does a really good job with that. I also really love being on campus, of course. I think our campus is beautiful. And yeah, like I said earlier, everyone's just super nice. And I think that's one of the perks of being in a small town like Guelph.
Right. Perfect. I saw some questions come in, but I think most of them we can answer actually later on as part of the admission piece.
For sure.
The one thing would be the student community that they're asking for. How is the student community? I think you kind of touched upon it already a little bit.
So yeah, like I said, the student community, I would say Guelph has become a lot more diverse, especially since I've started in 2017. I've noticed that there has been a lot more diversity on campus. And I think everyone's just really open to international students. Every time it would come up in a conversation and I was like, oh, I'm actually from Dubai. I'm not even a Canadian citizen by any means. Everyone would think that's super cool. And everyone really wants to get to know you. They want to know more about your background. And I've definitely always felt very welcomed.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And yeah, and we're going to move over to Muhammad.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm gonna head out unless there's any other questions that I can answer here.
I think it's fine. I think we have it covered. There's nothing specific to the major, I think.
I think someone said if they needed math as a prerequisite in high school for pharmaceutical.
We're gonna go right.
Okay.
So we're gonna go over that with the admission piece later on as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yeah. And yeah, Mohammed, you can get started. So describe your first year at the University of Guelph. Maybe not so much because you come from Canada. So I don't think the challenge would be the same as if you came from abroad directly. We can go into the major a little bit more with you. So why biomedical science at University of Guelph, I should add?
Okay. Well, I did want to highlight one thing, especially because I do get this a lot when I do speak to students graduating from high school, entering university, and that a common challenge often first years go through is that adapting to a self-dependent schedule. This is something I definitely also have experienced, and I've spoken about it with students who often ask me questions about University of Guelph or in general just university experience. At first, I didn't quite understand the balance that was required for courses as well as social life on the university. And you hear it from your families, from your peers, to always make sure that you're on top of your work. However, my first year, I realized that it could be overwhelming, and I didn't quite know how to overcome this challenge. So what I tell a lot of these students is, be well prepared, be well on top of your work. And what exactly does that entail? A lot of the time I advise them, make sure you look at your course outlines, make sure you plan your entire semester, and you can do this digitally, or you can even purchase a calendar from the university if you are on campus. If not, there are third-party apps on the internet that you can use. And what I personally like to do is write down all the major assessments, make sure all the assignments are written down, as well as your personal agenda if you would like to go to the gym or hang out with friends. This definitely makes the first year of university a very much welcoming experience, and it just prevents you from being overwhelmed. And sorry for the second question, why I chose biomedical sciences. So as I mentioned previously, I've always had a lifelong interest in pursuing, a healthcare career, and so it aligns perfectly with my interests as well as my strengths academically. And being able to take this program allows me to take the prerequisites required for the next step. So for those who share an interest in the healthcare career, you'll come to know that there are postgraduate studies that you might want to take. So if you're applying for veterinary school, you have to apply to veterinary school or medical school, or even if you'd like to do a master's, there's always that second portion to your academic life, and it just perfectly aligns with it.
Perfect. So if you want to mention some of the courses that have been really helpful for you and your choices as you progress in your program.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of the courses I've taken have been very hands-on experience that help you in terms of like the healthcare lifestyle. So courses such as endocrinology, histology, they've all shown you the clinical aspect, just because we've also have the OBC, and for biomedical science students, you're able to use these facilities. So you get to use actual real life clinical circumstances, as well as, slides, or even for anatomy, which is a dissection course, you're able to use cadavers to dissect them in the lab. So a lot of these facilities help you learn quite extensively, not just the textbook material, but also the practical life work that's involved in the healthcare industry. And often I find that students just taking these courses find different career paths that they might fall in love with along the way. So for those who might think that they want to go into medicine, along the way, find that they really like, kinesiology, and through the courses involved in kinesiology, they might want to continue a master's in physiotherapy. So yeah, courses such as endocrinology, histology, pharmacology, they're very well depth in terms of textbook knowledge, as well as like the hands-on experience that you receive through the biomedical science program.
Mm-hmm. So you touched upon that a little bit, because something that I hear often talking to prospective students, not least, is when they go into biomedical science program, they're looking at, I want to become a doctor. That's 95% of the students that are picking biomedical science do want to become doctors. What other pathways, aside from the ones that you just mentioned, what other pathways do you see within that area?
Now, that's a really good question. I think that this is probably the biggest advantage of taking a program such as biomedical sciences, and it's purely because it actually well prepares you for any type of different career path that you may want to pursue along the way. So as I mentioned, you have courses that prepare you for these different paths or different routes that you can take within the healthcare industry. However, we do also have other courses such as Biomedical Communications, which is something I've recently taken. It's a fourth-year course, and this prepares you with things such as applying for a postgraduate degree, or applying for research positions, as well as research critiques, which is something that's a very, very powerful tool to have as a scientist and anyone graduating in a science degree, because you will often find that you are encountering science critiques and papers that you must review. So there's also fourth-year programs that, such as the research programs, where you're able to conduct your own research under the supervision of a professor. And often I find that a lot of students continue their masters with working in the same lab. And they may go off and continue completing their masters and applying for a PhD. and find themselves going in different routes. So the beauty of the biomedical science program is because along the way you're learning so much and you're coming across so many streams of career paths that you may find that what you initially came in for, such as whether it be medicine or veterinary school, which is I think the top two reasons people choose the biomedical science program, you might find that along the way you like other streams of career. So personally, for myself, for like using myself as an example, I do want to pursue a career in medicine. However, I've realized along the way that I have such an interest in physiotherapy that I have actually chosen to first do a master's in physiotherapy and then pursue my career by applying to medical school.
That's super cool. Very good. Excellent. Yeah, we can leave that there for now. We jump over to Norman to talk about the biomedical toxicology a little bit. So Norman, as a recent alum, please describe the biomedical toxicology program. What exactly is it and why would students consider it?
So I think the biomedical toxicology program is kind of for those who love chemistry, but also don't want to dive too deep in it either, and still want to learn about that biology aspect. So it kind of sits, for me, how I see it is it kind of sits in between Chelsea's program and Mohammed's program, where I got to take a lot of those core chemistry courses and dive deeper into that and more into the research based of chemistry rather than the molecular side of chemistry. And while still, on my other hand, my classes also focused on the biology aspect of things and integrating the biology and the chemistry together. In terms of like what toxicology itself is, it's really looking at and doing research and understanding the properties of a substance and really understanding what is its limit, more than understanding what is its effect, which most areas of science look at in terms of understanding how can we solve this problem. In toxicology, we're really looking at how far can we push this until this becomes a problem. And that really works hand in hand with all the other fields because it's equally as important to understand what it does, but also to what extent can you use it as well before it becomes a problem.
Right. So if you can mention a couple of the courses that you found really helpful or kind of to set the tone for you on your path inside that program, which ones would you kind of point out?
So I think what's important to note is even though the program sounds super specific, saying biomedical toxicology, there are still a lot of different components to it. And in your first few years, you really get the chance to be exposed to the different areas of toxicology, which is chemical toxicology, environmental toxicology, or medical toxicology, which for me was really useful to decide in my third, like the end of my third and my fourth year, what stream I wanted to go into. And for me personally, it was definitely more to do with the medical toxicology side of things. So two of my absolute favorite courses were definitely my endocrine physiology course, which was all about understanding the works of the hormones, and my biomedical toxicology class, which was a lot more to do with a case study and an application base to really kind of prepare you for solving problems in a real world scenario.
Excellent. What should future Griffins know about the faculty inside your program? And Mohammed, you're more than welcome to jump in here as well if there's anything specific that you would like to share. But if we start with Norman, what's the faculty like? Are they always accessible? Are they extremely helpful?
So I think at Guelph, it's really unique that your profs are really there for you and here to support you. Especially as you go up in your courses in your second, third, and fourth year, your classes start to get a little smaller and you really get to create that connection with your professors. They have office hours that allows you to go see them once or twice a week outside of your regular lectures to kind of provide you with that additional support in terms of the course. But what's also important to note is they're also here to talk to you if you have any questions about your next steps. So if you want to know what are your career path options, who is best to us than someone who already is in the field and excelling in their field. So I think for me, it was really useful to get to know my professors and see what pathway they took to get to where they are, so that I could get a better understanding of what I want to do and what is going to be my pathway. And I think what's niche about like the toxicology program itself is because we overlap with pretty much all the faculties from food science, chemistry, biology, and all of those, I really got to see and connect with a wide range of faculty, which I think really, really helps.
And asking both of you actually, in terms of research opportunities, can you give example? Because University of Guelph is really research heavy. What research opportunities can students get, both in, of course, biomedical science, but also biomedical toxicology? And Norma, you can start if you want to.
Okay. So I think Mohammed touched base on it, but when you get into your fourth year, you do have the opportunity to do a fourth year research project as one of your courses, which allows you to conduct your own research with the supervision of a professor. And what's really cool is you get to pick your professor, where you would be the one to go contact a prof that is doing really cool research, and you'd be interested in getting involved in that and kind of doing a sub project with them. So it allows you to pick your area. It's not just a research project that you may or may not be interested. But also beforehand, during your early years at university, professors often are looking for volunteers to help them throughout the semester, which allows you to kind of get a step into that research lab and knowing would you even want to take it as a course down the line. And they also have like work opportunities over the summers where students can be involved in lab and kind of get paid as well.
Perfect.
I did want to add a little bit to that as well. I think Norman did a great job at highlighting the different ways you can get involved in research as well. And tying in a little bit with the previous question as well is that you can find that when you approach professors and you speak to them outside of class, they become familiar with you. And especially this helps when you enter your third and fourth year, because now they're recognizing that this is, a keen student. And I know personally myself, I've actually participated or volunteered in certain labs. And just based on the fact that the professors recognize me from office hours, they've invited me to help volunteer with them and actually take on a little bit more responsibilities in their lab. And this can open up more doors to, maybe even taking a major role in an undergraduate research project, as well as pursuing it to a master's level. So it definitely helps a long way.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing that.
Sorry, when I just want to add also an opportunity you actually also get to do when you get into your fourth year is also to kind of teach back to the first and the second years, which also is equally as important, I think, than like that research opportunity as well, because you are still working in a lab, but this time you flipped the switch and you are now the teacher's assistant, where you get to run the labs for students as well. I think is a really cool opportunity.
Excellent, excellent. We'll leave the academics for two seconds. I think we covered most of the academics for now. We're going to talk about some other features of the university that I think are really, really important to keep in mind. We have seen your questions. We are going to address them eventually. Just stay put. Some of it is going to be part of the admission slides that I'm going to cover in a little bit. But we're going to start with some resources for students. For example, when they arrive the first year, we know that the first year can be challenging at times for students coming from abroad, which makes perfect sense because all of a sudden you become independent. You have to wash your own clothes. You have to, there are a lot of different features, different things that you have to take care of on your own now. So with that comes homesickness and other challenges as well. So if we start with Norman in terms of student wellness, I start with that one. Can you mention some of the resources that we have that students should take advantage of when they arrive on campus during the first semester?
I think a first thing that I like really highlight every time is really the Start International, which even helps students in their transition before they even start coming to university and prepares them for that move, which is Start International is a program for all international students as a pre-arrival program. It's kind of before your orientation weekend is there to provide you with that additional support that will help you in your transition and kind of get you to know your layout, know the campus, know your resources that are around you, so that during the semester in your 4 years, you know where you can go and who to reach out to when you are in need of help or support. In terms of other resources that are always available year round, I think we've recently renovated the Wellness Center, so it's really easy to find what you need. They've kind of centralized all of the health resources, both mental health and physical health resources. So you have access to counselors for your academic needs. So academic counselors can help you through your course selections, any issues you may be having or struggling with courses. They will definitely be your number one resource in supporting you to kind of help you get your GPA up, get the grades you are wanting for your future career if you're applying to postgraduates. But if you're also kind of feeling homesick, you need kind of that emotional support, there are also counselors available for that. And what's I think kind of unique in Guelph is also our campus has doctors available, and we have the Health and Performance Center, which has physiotherapists and kind of all of those. So you don't really need to seek and go outside of campus and find things. Everything is already on the campus. And if you need anything outside of the campus resources will refer you and help you and identify who you should go see for yourself.
Awesome. And for the academic support, if you're talking about the peer-to-peer, for example, I don't know if Mohammed, if you want to cover this, the SLGs, for example, we can also talk about the academic clusters, which I think is a good point to mention for new students who are not familiar with the options they have when looking for residences. We do have something called academic clusters where you can actually choose to live with students within the same program as you, which makes it really accessible. If you have any questions, you may just open the door, go to the people sitting there studying, and you can just ask questions. But I don't know if Mohammed, if you want to cover a little bit of that.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure Norman can as well speak on that. I've actually had experience in my first year. I wasn't specifically put there as a request in terms of the cluster. However, I was fortunate enough to be in a temporary residence surrounded by the cluster, and it happened to be the exact same program that I was in. So, yay me. And yeah, it's a very, very healthy environment, especially when you're in your first year and you're not entirely aware of how things are moving. Especially if you have any questions for courses or classes or upcoming dates, it's really, really good to establish a good network of friends that you can rely on in terms of, hey, can you explain this to me? Or have you worked on this? Or do you mind, going through some course material with me? In terms of SLGs, it's a very, very good, useful group sessions. I've actually personally attended in my first and second years as well. Where you basically can go for extra studying hours. Usually before COVID, it would be the group would book a meeting room where students can come attend and do maybe practice tests as well as just cover course material. You will often find an SLG leader attending the courses with you, and they'll take note of everything that's being studied. And then what they'll do is they'll go over it with the students and the SLG sessions. And later on, if you feel that you are confident in that course or in your upper years, you'd like to help the students who are younger, you can actually apply to be an SLG leader as well and give back the same way that you managed to take advantage of that opportunity.
Perfect. Excellent. Anything you want to add to that, Norman? I think you both covered a lot of good stuff.
Mohammed touched bases on, and I think it's really key to like the SLGs, is the fact that in SLGs, they are actually working with your professors to create the study material. And what's unique with SLGs is it allows you to get extra practice questions. So they'll run mock midterms and mock finals. And I think this is a huge asset to prepare you for your exams. I know when I was in high school, the best way for me to practice was always kind of getting those practice questions that you would get in your textbooks, and your profs would give you homework and things like that. And at university, it's a little bit different depending on the courses. You might not get the same type of problem sets that you used to get in high school directly from your class, but the SLGs provide that question set and that problem set that really helps ingrain all the knowledge you need.
Perfect. So very valuable information for you viewers. Let's move on to the extracurricular piece, because once again, University of Guelph is ranked #1 in Canada for student satisfaction and student experience, which means that it's for a reason. Can any one of you just give some of your experiences with intramurals, with clubs, everything? We can start with Mohammed this time.
Yeah, this is probably the most exciting part about university. Aside from all the academics and stuff, time for you to enjoy yourself in the university. Now there are a lot of things for you to do. Intramural specifically, if you are a sports person, there are plenty of sports for you to partake in, as well as teams. You can create your own teams. You can join teams as a free agent and actually go through tournament style or league situations. And I find this to be probably the most relaxing part of university. I myself have grown up loving to play soccer. So whenever I get to play through the season, it gets your mind off school, blows off some steam, and it's a really, really fun experience. I definitely recommend it if you are interested in sports. Aside from that, there are thousands of clubs or hundreds of clubs that you can join, probably too many for me to mention. I myself have actually started a club at the university. It's called the Sparrow Foundation. It's a nonprofit where you basically help support the homeless of Guelph. And it actually grew so much that recently we became an organization and incorporated earlier this year in May. So there are tons of clubs that you can join, different things, different avenues of what entails to your interest. And if you don't like the clubs out there, you can actually go out there and start your own. So that's the beauty of it and the community. And you'll find that a lot of people share your interests. And you'll definitely be able to grow that club, and who knows, it might be there for a couple of years after or way longer after you graduate. So yeah.
Brilliant. Norman.
I think intramurals, I definitely agree. Those are a great way to kind of take a break. And if you don't have friends who want to do the sports you want to do, they also have the options of you like just joining random teams and kind of, it's a great way for you to integrate into Guelph and make new friends. Personally, what I love about intramurals is the fact that you can just try a sports out for fun. There are different levels to the intramurals. So if you just want to try it out for fun, you can be in the beginners league. And there are so many random fun sports. I think one of the ones I think is like super funny is intertube water polo, where you're just in a little buoy trying to play water polo in a university pool with everyone. It kind of brings you back to like when you were a kid swimming around and kind of trying to float. So I personally think that's one of my favorite ones that we have to offer. But one thing I personally was really involved in my 4 years was really the volunteering aspect that not just the university, but the community of Guelph has to offer. So I spend a lot of time volunteering every year to be an orientation volunteer and kind of welcoming our first year students and setting the tone for the next 4 years. But I was also involved in the community programs such as Big Brother, Big Sister, where I acted as a school mentor for younger kids within the Guelph community. And I think is very Guelph, and you'll see a lot of campus, is we do have a lot of service dogs in training. And in the last year and a half, nearly 2 years, I worked on training a service dog. So if you're someone who absolutely loves dogs and misses having a dog while you are an international student, it's the perfect way to kind of have a dog while knowing that if you have to fly home, you don't always have to kind of arrange to find someone to dog sit for you. You are volunteering your time, so they'll kind of coordinate that for you.
Awesome. Perfect. I'm gonna jump. We have 9 minutes left. We're gonna have to cover quite a bit of things before we reach our final destination. I'm gonna start with some admission related stuff, and I'm gonna start with the finances. So we talk about scholarship opportunities. I saw there were some questions there. This year we have a new presidential scholarship that I'm very happy to announce. It's $42,000 for a happy student. Deadline January 25th. Okay. It comes with an application as well. So you need to apply for the President's Scholarship, definitely. The other piece is the entrance scholarships that are automatic for all students. They range from 5,500 to 8,500 Canadian, and they are also renewable, meaning that you can get 4,000 for year 2, 3, and 4 as well. So no application is required. I'm going to show you this. So here you have a better idea of the schedule as well. So in terms of the tuition, so for science students that we're talking about right now, the current tuition is $26,730. That's for science and arts programs. So you're looking at the total cost down here, 42,000, but this is kind of an estimate at the end of the day. It all depends on which type of meal plan you have, which type of housing you choose, etc. And it normally gets a little bit cheaper for year 2 when you live off campus. It's normally cheaper to live off campus. You may even cook more of your own food at that time. So there are many ways to kind of cut down on the cost. The other piece is the job opportunities that we have mentioned, some of them, but you are allowed to work 20 hours on campus or off campus. That's perfectly fine during the semester. And when you have a break, when you have a holiday, you are allowed to work full time, even outside of campus. That's definitely something you should keep in mind and potentially take advantage of as well as an international student to get a little bit more money on your bank account. So with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing that piece. I'm going to continue with a little bit more admission in a bit, but let me just go to, what do you see here? I would like for the two of you to just cover the food while I pick up the best or the proper slide for this. So if you want to talk about the food at Guelph, just for everyone who's watching, we've been ranked #1 in Canada for the past 10 years. So food is a priority at the institution. Please go ahead.
I'm a huge foodie, so that was definitely a deciding factor to picking Guelph. Not only does Guelph has really good food on campus, but there's also so many great food places that even Jimmy highlighted in the map earlier surrounding the university that you're definitely going to want to try. I know when my parents came to visit me in Guelph, I basically took them more on a food tour than anything else in Guelph. Because for me, that is really part of Guelph. I don't know about you, Mohammed, if you want to add anything to that.
I definitely agree. The food is phenomenal here. It's honestly, it's not even justified to just explain it. You have to experience it to be able to relate to this level. There are plenty of amazing food places to go, specifically places like Creelman, which you will undoubtedly fall in love with. I know in first year, I used to go there every single day. And just as Norman mentioned, outside of the community, when I started living outside of the university, I realized that there are so many other places, especially downtown, that you can go to. Honorable mentions to Crafty Ramen or Bread Bar. Those are some of my favorite places. So yeah, the food is phenomenal. You will not be upset with it.
Excellent. I don't even going to share anything on top of that. I think you both did a great job doing that. So in terms of applying to the university, there are 3 ways you can apply. So if you look on the screen, I hope that you see my screen right now, is University of Guelph directly on our website. You can apply through OUAC as well. If you're applying to multiple universities in Ontario, that portal does make sense to you. If you're looking at both the US and Canada, then the Common App is your choice most likely. The documents can be sent to indocs@uguelph.ca as well. But if you need any assistance, you are more than welcome to contact us directly, me and the rest of the staff. You will also find us online via the Unibody portal, and both Norman and Mohammed are on the Unibody portal. So just look for Unibody in the search box on the website, and you will find all of us there, me included. Some of the deadlines, just keep in mind, early consideration, January 15. Okay, so that's a deadline to kind of keep in mind. And February 1st is when you need to submit all your documents. So make sure that you submit your application before that if you haven't already. Regular admission, February 15, March 1st, the deadline for the documentation. And after that is rolling admission, space permitting. So if the program fills up after that, then the door is closed. So keep that in mind. Yeah, these are just some of the things that we're recommending our future students to take a look at. I mentioned the Unibody. I think that's a great way, but also follow us on Instagram. I think that's a good way to get a piece of the culture at the university to really get an idea. Also, the YouTube videos are really great, and explore our campus online. You can do that too. Now we have a couple of minutes left. I'm stopping the share, and I will look at the Q&As because we have some of them to cover, and I will go through them to start with. I'm going to pass it over to some of you if necessary. Do we have to give SAT or any other exams for admission? Normally, no, you do not. That is not a requirement. But looking at the academics, that's kind of what we're going for. So if you're an IB student, we'll look at the predicted grades to make a decision. If you do in the CBSE, the Indian board, we're looking at the 10th grade, 10th board exam and a predicted 12th. If you're doing A levels, we're looking for A's and B's in the academics. That's kind of where we are. Moving forward, can we change our major in first year? Yes, you normally can. It's a quite flexible system. So if you feel like you're looking at a different major instead, if you're within the same program, I can always guarantee you that that's not going to be an issue. If you're moving over programs, then you're going to have the coordinators, the academic coordinators, maybe looking at a little bit extra. But if you're within your program, that's not an issue. Table bio and farm chemistry. Yeah, exactly. Nikhil, that was correct. Chelsea answered that one. Do you need math as a prerequisite in high school for pharmaceutical course? Yes, all biological, all the bio courses that we have do require math. It's pretty much only the Bachelor of Arts that does not require math at the institution. So even if you're going into to commerce programs, obviously engineering, computer science, sciences, they all require math. And it's advanced math if you're doing a biological science. It's calculus if you're doing a physical science. So that's kind of the distinction between those two as well. Scholarships I mentioned, SAT required, no. Shout out to Mo for the advice. Lana, kinesiology. Right, let me just read through it. But math is not advanced functions as it's usually requested. Right. I think for you, if you're unsure about the advanced function piece, or if you know that you don't actually have it, then I would recommend you to go to ilc.org. It's a virtual platform that is here in Ontario. In Ontario, it's the course MHF for you. That is the course that you need to take, which is the advanced math in the Canadian curriculum. If you take that course online, let's say that you enroll in that course, submit the enrollment form to us with your application, and we will accept you conditionally based on the enrollment. Afterwards, you have to submit your final result, and you need to have a 75%, I believe, or something to actually maintain your spot in the program. So that's something that is possible for you, but try to figure out whether it is equivalent or not. If you know you don't have advanced math, that might be the pathway for you to take. Is there Greek life presence in the campus? Guys?
Sorry?
Is there Greek life presence in the campus? Do we have those clubs? We don't, right?
No, Guelph doesn't really have a Greek life.
Mm-hmm. Right. We do have a lot of other life, but not that specific one. We definitely don't. It's a very vibrant university, but we don't have that specifically, no. To apply for scholarships, where do I go to check, or where do I apply? So the academic scholarships are automatic, like I said. The President's Scholarship does, you have to go to the website and look for Franco Vaccarino International Scholarship, I think it says. It's on the international website, whether you have the applications. So just look there and you'll definitely find it. Are there any scholarships for African students? We do have scholarships for all students. No, nothing specific right now for the African students. Let's see. Fees for Bachelor of Science and Computer Science. Computer Science is currently 29,000 and change. Exactly what is going to be in the fall, I cannot guarantee, because we do see an increase every year. So whether that's going to be 30,000, 31,000, I would guess that's probably where it's going to land. But we're going to have to wait and see. And normally we get those fees not until May-ish. So yeah, you just have to stay put and wait for that information. I had applied, however, I was emailing saying that the high school has to send unofficial documents. Is that has to send unofficial documents? So normally what we do when we receive documentation is that when the documents are being sent from the high school, we consider them official. That's why we often request a documentation coming directly from the high school. I cannot speak about your particular case. I have to see exactly, you know, what the deal is and who has been communicating what. So if you want to email me, and I can put it in the chat box, I put my email there. And you can just write to me directly, and I'll take a look at it, and I forward you as well to the right person if necessary. Is there computer science department undergraduate? I'm not sure I fully understand that question. Computer science. Yeah, we do have computer science. We do. I mean, this webinar specifically is for more so for biological sciences. Computer science kind of falls more under engineering and kind of has its own little department. So yeah, that's kind of the question for, or the answer for that question. With that being said, we're actually due already. It's 4:03 in Sweden, at least. So on behalf of the University of Guelph, thank you so much, Norman. Thank you so much, Mohammed, and Chelsea, of course. Thank you for the valuable information that you shared with all of us. We hope that the guys that were listening to this and will listen to it in the future find it helpful. Please reach out to us if you have any questions via our Unibody platform on the website or directly via email, as you can see, jhammondb@uguelph.ca. With that being said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and all the best. Take care.